Any of you heard the Christmas story? Probably over and over again. Yeah, we've heard it. Most of us have heard it over and over again. And today we're just going to look at the part of the story that's in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 2, 1 through 20. So even though we kind of know all the other details that are coming around, I'm just going to invite you to pay attention to what's in this particular chunk of the story. So, it came to pass that there needed to be a census. Caesar Augustus was in power. He was the emperor of the entire Roman thing. And Quirinius was the governor in Syria. I think that's the only thing that Quirinius is known for. Everyone was supposed to go to kind of their birthplace to be registered. Everyone was going to be counted. And so it came to pass that Joseph, who was of the lineage of David, needed to go to Bethlehem. He lived in Nazareth, which was in Galilee, but he needed to go to Bethlehem, which is in Judea, because he was part of the house of David. That's King David. He was part of the lineage of King David. So he needed to travel to Bethlehem to be counted. And so we started out on this trip, and along with him was Mary, and he was betrothed. He was promised in marriage to Mary. She was pregnant, and it happened that once they got to Bethlehem, that baby was ready to be born. And the baby was born. It was a little boy, her first child, and she wrapped him in cloths and put him in a manger because there was no room in the inn. There were no guest houses where they could stay. There was the baby in the manger. Meanwhile, there were shepherds living in the hills, tending their sheep, tending their flocks by night. And all of a sudden, an angel came. And, of course, they were terrified because the whole glory of God was like there, right there on the spot. They were terrified, but the angel said what angels always say in this situation, be not afraid. Because I've come to bring you great news. There's a Savior that's been born, a Messiah that's been born this day. And suddenly, there was not just one angel, but there was a whole heavenly host, which is, I think, a lot of angels. And they were all singing at the top of their lungs, glory, glory to God on highest, and peace on earth to all God's people. And then the angels disappeared. Busy night. Off somewhere. I don't know. So the shepherds kind of looked at each other and said, we better go check this out. So off they trotted to Bethlehem. And there they found this baby, just like the angel said. You're going to find this baby. The sign is going to be that the baby is going to be wrapped in swaddling cloths, in the cloths that babies were wrapped in. You find him in a manger, and that was exactly the way it happened. The shepherds found the baby just like it had been said. And they were amazed and astounded. And they had to go tell everyone around town this thing that had happened, this thing that they had seen. It says that Mary just pondered these things in her heart. And the shepherds came back and they said, this is an amazing thing. And we're going to tell everyone this amazing thing that we've heard and seen.
So as many of you know, one of the ways we do our Sunday school program is called Godly Play. And even though there's play in the language, it's really serious stuff that we're doing. Because part of what we're doing is we're teaching our kids, and they're teaching us how to take responsibility for our scriptural tradition, our Christian faith. And one of the ways we do that is we wonder together about the story, which is what we're going to do now for a little bit. I'm going to lead you through some wondering questions, and this is a participatory sport. And the theology is, partly the reason why we chose Godly Play is because this theology really resonates with us, that the wisdom of God resides in every single one of us, not just those of us who get to sit up here, but the wisdom, God puts wisdom inside each of you, and insight that sometimes we don't even know ourselves until we hear it come out of our mouths. So that's what we're going to do today. I invite you all to participate. So the first question I have for you is, I wonder which part of this story you liked best. What part did you like best? Exactly, that it's embodied. I wonder which part of the story you liked best. Carmen. You liked when the angels came to the shepherds and said, "Do not be afraid." Do you want to say a sentence or so about why that you like that part best? You liked it. Okay. Janet.
I like the part where the shepherds were curious and they wanted to go check it out. And I think that's because I would like to be more like that.
Janet liked the part where the shepherds were curious. She'd like to be more like that when they went to check it out. I wonder, yeah, Emma.
I like
The ending where Mary's pondering things in her heart. Abby. Black. I like that color too.
I want to know what it sounds like with the whole heavenly host singing. I'm really curious.
You're curious about the heavenly host singing. What do we think? What do you think that sounds like? Has anybody heard something like that?
I just can't imagine it wouldn't be amazing.
Yeah. Being in the middle of it. Yeah. Yeah, Joe. The part where the shepherd said, "We're going to go tell everyone." Absolutely. I was going to say at the very end of our service, but we don't know when that will be. We're going to sing "Go Tell It on the Mountain," and that's part of what that's about. Like, go tell it on the mountain. I wonder, any other parts that you like best that we didn't get back? You like the angels. Me too. Yeah, Janet. I wonder what Mary was really thinking. Was she pondering? Do you think maybe she wasn't? Do you have a little... With a new baby? Would have been doing something other than pondering? One pondering. Yeah, Jenna. You like the part where the baby was born. Yeah, too. I wonder what part of the story you liked least. What part of the story did you like least? The history about Quirinius and Caesar Augustus and blah, blah, blah. King, ruler, power, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Travel to be counted for some mysterious power.
Yeah, having to travel to be registered. Which is an interesting word in our country right now, to be registered.
How everyone thinks that the wise men were men.
The wise men were men, right? And the shepherds were men, right? Yeah. I wonder what part of the story is most important. Jesus, say more. His birth changed the world and you forever? Is that what you said, Richard? Yeah, thanks. That he was wrapped in normal cloths. What about that is important for you, Lorenzo?
What it says to me is that Jesus can come from everyone, from the most normal thing in our lives.
Yeah, that Jesus comes from the ordinary, the humble, the not necessarily flashy or significant. Yeah. Other things that were the most important. We left out the animals. We'll have to talk to our storyteller. No animals in this story. Where was Joseph? Who was taking care of the sheep? That's what I always wonder. Last year, when we were doing this whole thing about wondering, I spent a good amount of time wondering about that. Like, what happened to those sheep? Did they just wander around on the... Yeah, and then when the shepherds came back, I know. I wonder that too. Maybe they what?
I wonder why someone didn't give up their room. Maybe there was a pregnant woman.
Yeah. I wonder, did everyone hear what Phil say? I wonder why someone didn't give up their room. Probably people heard that there was a pregnant woman, like very pregnant, gonna give birth any second. Why someone didn't give up their room? Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah. Yeah. I wonder which part of the story is most about you. The woman part. Yeah, Mateo. The Jesus part. Do you want to say why? Your name means gift of God. Yes, it does. And yes, you are. Yeah. Giving birth to a child. Absolutely. So that really visceral part of the story, the very human part of the story, is so relatable. Yeah. What else? What part of the story is most about you?
I kind of identify with the shepherds who are taking care of business and it's a day thing and then this thing happens and how are you going to respond?
Yeah. In your ordinary day, this thing happens. And how are you going to respond? Yeah. Can anybody else relate to that? Margaret's kind of insight around that? Yeah. God breaking in.
Yes. Yes, and recognizing it instead of saying, just a minute.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
When I was a kid, I used to think, well, of course it happened that night because it was Christmas night, so the shepherds would be expecting it.
Right. They were anticipating.
Yeah.
Right, but no, first Christmas.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
I realized that later, that it was probably a surprise to them because they wouldn't know that it was.
Right. Right. Yeah, Bree. The baby. The part about the baby is the most about you. Is that because you're still a baby? Yeah. Forever? Yeah. Me too. I wonder what part of the story is about us. Love. Say more, Francis.
All of us love each other. That's so wonderful with this church and with our ministry and with your story. And look at me, I'm still alive.
Yeah. Thanks be to God. I wonder what part of the story is the most about us.
Community about the shepherds coming in, and here's the whole family and all the animals, and everybody's there together. It's a community.
Everyone's there together as a community. Mhm. Yeah, Leonard.
Maybe the part about being obedient and sort of listening to God and sort of forgetting our roles and responsibilities that the world gives us, but can be obedient to what our hearts tell us.
Yeah, and that reminds me of what Margaret said. Like the shepherds were doing their job, and they were interrupted, and to pay attention, and to follow that. Is that what you're? Yeah. Rod,
Well, I like to think that we're more the angels.
say more. There were more the angels. Say more.
We're out there. We got the word, and we want to sing it out there and just invite everybody in.
So being that miraculous. What did you say, Julie? That not cacophony, but the chorus, the chorus of angels. Yeah, out there in the world. Yeah, the heralds. Oh yeah, Lorenzo.
Because being wrapped in normal clothing, how I see us is as the body of Christ, being born to the Holy Spirit in our bodies, and as a body of Christ.
Yeah, so the part about being wrapped in normal clothes and our normal bodies, and our normal bodies being called to be into service. Yeah. The house of David. Say more.
Jesus was a Jew,
Jesus was a Jew, yep.
and he's part of a long descendant family. So with that, the community is not just the community around Jesus and the birth, but also the symbolic larger community in that history.
So the whole history of the Hebrew people, yeah, absolutely. For me, the part of the story that I feel like is the most about us are the parts, especially right now, are the parts of the story about joy. Can you think about where there's joy in this story? Dancing. Angels. The shepherds running out to tell people. Mary. The birth. Oxytocin. After Mary started nursing. So, we could look at this story and there could be a lot of not joy, right? So, back to that kind of boring history part, that the Quirinius and Caesar Augustus, the one who thought he was God and was making sure everyone else thought he was God, and the Roman rule, and, this family, very, very poor, probably not awesome to give birth in a manger or a cave or wherever it was that Jesus was born. The shepherds, that was hard labor. Cold, maybe. Would they get in trouble for leaving their sheep? All those questions. A lot not joy. I think for us, back to Julie's point, this is not our first Christmas that we've heard, not the first time we've heard the story. And there's all the kind of both religious and cultural trappings of joy around it. But we can forget that for the people who are living it, their experience of life was not joyful. In a lot of ways, it's a lot like the situation that's happening now. People in the world living under occupation, violence, oppression, poverty, fear. So for me, I think the story is about joy because I think that our ability to find joy in all circumstances is subversive. Because there are forces in the world, powers in the world, who I think probably don't want us to feel joyful. Like Caesar Augustus, they profit on fear, division, having us think of ourselves as winners or losers. Am I a winner? Am I a loser? And seeing ourselves as other and trying to defend what little we have. But when we're joyful, what happens? Right? The shepherds, they go run and see, and then they go run and tell everyone. These uneducated, probably poor shepherds who for their whole life have been told they're nobody, suddenly feel empowered to go and share this good news. And who knows? Well, we do know what happened because they shared it. Here we are, 2,000 years later, talking about it. And Richard said, Jesus has changed his life. That's true of me, too. And I know many, many, many of you. So to be people who can sleuth out joy and live from that place and not be taken over by the forces of despair, the forces of division, the forces of fear, that will sustain us to do the work that God has called us to do. A little thing I learned about the word joy, it has the same root with the word that means lean towards or be favorably disposed towards something. Like joy has an object. And most people, particularly most religious people, would say that joy's object is God. To be joyful is to be favorably disposed towards God's grace, to lean ourselves into the places where God is showing up in the world. So I think that's the message for us, at least for me, going into this next year, to 2017. How can I lean into the places where God's grace is? That has nothing to do with diminishing what's hard. In fact, I think it's essential to be able to show up for what's hard, is to look to see how God is revealing God's self. God chose a body. God chose bodies to bring about God's plan. That is good news, people. That is joyful news. So today, on this Christmas Day, it's so awesome to be able to have church on actual Christmas Day. I hope that we can lean towards joy. Lean towards the places where God's grace is unfolding. Like the shepherds, we can notice it when it interrupts our day. Like the angels, we can go flitting around to various places telling people not to be afraid. God has not abandoned the world. We are here. It is good. It is good news. Thanks be to God. Amen.